Hey everybody, how you doing? Once again, it's the Fantasy Typhoon, aka the Mentalist, aka your favorite analyst. Welcome to another episode of Trade, Keep, Cut. Today we have on the block. Today we have no other than Chase Claypool. We have Jerry Jeudy, and we have Mr. Brandon Aiyuk. All second-year players. Whether you trade them, whether you keep them, whether you cut them, it's about to go down. Welcome to Game Time.
It's about to go down in a minute. Let me touch down. I'ma get it. Cause I been waiting all night. It's game time.
What's up, everybody? Once again, it's the Fantasy Typhoon. This is Trade, Keep, Cut. And let me introduce my illustrious panel. I got my good friend, Jeff HASELEY. I got my good friend, Andy MILEY, Mr. Pioneer of it all. Man, look, he is Hall of Famer in my book. He is one of the best of the best. Folks, we got Andy MILEY on the show. Yes, Andy MILEY, welcome to the show, man. Trade, Keep, Cut. Chase Claypool, Jerry Jeudy, Brandon Aiyuk. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Man, look, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come sit down and talk some good old fantasy football with old Fantasy Typhoon, man. I really appreciate you, Andy.
Well, you know what? I'm going to say first, I really appreciate the graphics and everything you got going on here, because when I was doing all this kind of stuff, we didn't have cameras. And we certainly didn't have anything that looked like that. That looked like $1 million. That's awesome.
Hey, I appreciate it, my friend. I appreciate it. Look, I learned it from Jeff. You know, Jeff taught me everything I know, man. That's my graphic designer on the, you know, my silent partner.
Awesome.
Hey, Jeff, what's going on, man? Last but not least, definitely. Well, welcome to the show, Jeff. Go ahead and tell the folks, man, what you got going on, Jeff.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. Yes, you can find me, of course, on Twitter at my handle down there below at Jeff HASELEY. Also at footballguys.com. It's busy, believe it or not, this time of year. You know, it's off season, but we got the draft, we've got rookie leagues, or we've got rookie mocks. We've got rankings, Dynasty Rankings, all kinds of stuff, man. We've got, just so much happening at Football Guys. We're adding new people on the staff. It's a lot of fun. So I've been busy, and I will continue to be busy here in the offseason as we get closer to the draft and then closer to the regular season. So, yeah.
Look, offseason is not offseason anymore. Fantasy football is the year-round.
Yeah.
It's year-round now, folks. You know, you got the Dynasty and your Keepers League, and you got folks like Jeff, myself, and Mr. Andy MILEY over there, always doing our research, always staying on our toes, so we can always give you the best information available to keep you on your toes, to keep you dominating in your league. That's what we're here to do, folks. But without further ado, we won't do any more small talk. We get right to it. Trade, keep, cut episode. Jeff, you in the middle? Oh, hold on. Let me go ahead and introduce these players. Chase Claypool, 6'4", 227 out of Notre Dame, round 2. Pick 17, he's 23 years old. Jerry Jeudy, 6'1", 192 out of Alabama. First round pick 15, he's 22 years old. Brandon Aiyuk, 6'1", 206 pounds out of Arizona State. He's a first round pick. He was pick number 25. He's 24 years old, so he's the older of the crew. I didn't really realize Claypool was 23. Between the three, Jerry Jeudy came into the game as supposedly the best route runner. Claypool came in as supposedly the best my ball guy, you know. And I'm pretty sure you guys might bring up the TMZ outburst when you do your Claypool breakdown, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Aiyuk came into the game as the best yards after the catch prospect. Each one of those guys kind of lived up to that billing. Okay, now the stage is set. You guys know the metrics behind the guys. Jeff, you're in the middle. The middle goes first. Trade, keep, cut. The floor is yours, sir.
All right. What do you want to talk about first? Trade?
Trade first. Trade first.
First of all, I just want to say that this is a really tight argument between these three. And I'm not sure if I would condone trading, keeping, or cutting any one of these three. But honestly, because I think it could be anybody. And it really depends on what your feelings are. And I'm going to try and convey to you and to everyone listening what my feelings are and how I kind of approach this. So generally, I will try to trade the player that I think has the most value, the person that has the highest ranking last year, that has most likely a more of an opportunity for a regression, especially in touchdowns. And in my opinion, that player is Chase Claypool. He was the wide receiver 22 in PPR scoring format last year. He has the most traffic around him, right, with Deontay Johnson and Juju Smith-Schuster coming back. He had 11 touchdowns last year, which is outstanding, right? That's great. However, those 11 touchdowns, he only scored in 7 different games. So, I mean, there were some games where he had multiple touchdowns. And now how do we knock a guy who has multiple touchdowns? I'm not necessarily knocking him. I'm wanting to trade him because I think his value is high. Even with Juju Smith-Schuster, I can't say that sometimes, coming back, I still think that Claypool has some value because of all the touchdowns he scored last year. But so he's got competition. He's got an aging quarterback who is 1 foot into retirement. And I already mentioned that he scored in 7 different games, 11 touchdowns, right? That's not bad, but I mean, it would have been great if he scored in 10 games or 11 games, all those touchdowns, just because that would be more consistent. I just think that touchdown regression is likely, and he still has some value that I think is very a high commodity. I'd trade him. I would trade him. Looking at the others, I mean, Jerry Jeudy finished. Let's see, what did he finish last year? 46th, wide receiver 46, and Brandon Aiyuk, wide receiver 35, and I just mentioned Claypool 22. So Claypool, in my opinion, has the most value that I think you can get the most in return right now. Brandon Aiyuk is a pretty close second because a lot of people like him in San Francisco. They like the offensive structure with Kyle Shanahan, and I don't blame that. But I think that Claypool and his touchdown totals and on the Steelers with Ben Roethlisberger still coming back, I think people might think, you know what, I'm going to get some of those touchdowns and I'll be able to get him somewhat at a discount because we've got Johnson and Smith-Schuster also there. So, but if you can get a good return for Claypool, I would trade him. So he's the guy that I'm trading. Hopefully that wasn't too winded, but
no, take your time.
I explained myself pretty well, I hope.
No, take your time. Exhaust all your research. Please be exhausted. Put everything out on the table when we go over it at the end. When we try to see if anybody changed anybody's mind, you might have left something out. All right, Andy, it's waiting on you, my friend. Trade, keep, cut, Mr. Hall of Famer of fantasy football. What you got over there for me, Andy?
Well, you know what? I will first say I'm a Steelers fan, so and my take's going to be much different. I'm actually going to go with Brandon Aiyuk is who I would trade because I believe he has the highest value right now. Yes, he does have an unknown quarterback situation. Is it going to be Garoppolo? It's probably going to be a rookie quarterback. He has Deebo Samuels on the other side. He has Kittle right there, but he has the opportunity to excel. And I think that because it is so high right now, that's why I would take advantage of that, just because people are going to factor in the Chase Claypool, that he did have those, ridiculous 11 touchdowns. and they're going to think, well, you know what? It's probably flukish. I'm probably not going to give you as much, but oh yeah, you're really. I'd rather have Aiyuk, and I think that's what people are going to. You're going to get more in a trade for him than you would with Claypool.
Okay, so you trading Brandon Aiyuk?
I'm trading Brandon Aiyuk.
Jeff, you trading Chase Claypool, correct?
I'm trading Chase Claypool, but it's so damn close to Brandon Aiyuk. I'm like right there. I'm 1A, 1B, not even one. I'm like 1 double A and 1 double AB. If I could get there. AAB. Yeah, no, it's so tight. It's really close. But I chose Claypool with the touchdown total and the higher ranking to end the season. I do think that Brandon Aiyuk has good high value right now, and it's really close between the two of them in terms of dynasty value. But I chose Claypool also with the aging Roethlisberger and maybe a stretch to being more of a run-oriented team. We'll see.
All right, so on old Typhoon here, trade, keep, cut. I'm trading. I'm more along with Andy, Mr. Pioneer over there. I'm hanging on with Andy. I'm going to trade Brandon Aiyuk. Like Jeff said as well. This was a real hard one. When I first started, uncovering the stones and doing the deep dive into these guys, I was looking. It was hard, but once I started looking at the film, going over the numbers, looking at the scheme that they're in, things became a little bit clearer. And I trade Brandon Aiyuk. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo. Will he play next year? Will he return? Aiyuk did well catches passes from C.J. Beathard and Nick Mullins, so he excelled there. But at the same time, you had Raheem Mostert out, you had George Kittle out, you had Deebo Samuel out. So he was the de facto number one, and he did well with those reps. He overcame those double teams. So with Raheem Mostert returning, Deebo Samuel and Kittle, and let's say everything goes well, Jimmy G is starting off the season as the quarterback. So there are going to be some changes coming on with Brandon Aiyuk from the way he finished last season. Also, the system what they're in is called the modified West Coast, which is a lot of yards after the catch. So basically what they want to do is do like a lot of slants, do like a lot of wide receiver screens and bubble screens, get the ball out of the quarterback's hand as fast as possible. Let the wide receivers and the tight end, let those skill players get their yards via yards after the catch. Aiyuk is good for that. He's born for this system, so he's right at home. Now, looking at my film study, like I was saying, he catches those short screens, those bubbles, and quick slants. He uses stiff arm a lot. He understands zone and man, which is a requirement for Shanahan, because you have to see your route just like the quarterback. So he did well on that. He played all over the formation. He lined up at X, he lined up at Z, he lined up in the slot, which is what we call the W. And he was also used as a punt returner. So I like to see a team utilize their players to the maximum value. So he was on the field as much as possible. Let's look over the numbers right quick. 16.8% of the team targets was his target rate. He had a 62.5% catch rate. Inside the 10, he had a 60% catch rate with 5 TDs. Inside the 20, he had a 19% target share and a 64.29% catch rate. His phenomenal week was week 12 against the football team. He scored a high 23.9 fantasy points, which was his highest. And his worst game was when he was first getting started, was week 2, 4.1 fantasy points. That came against the Jets. Now, since I'm trading Aiyuk, I just went ahead and did a deep dive into some of the hauls that you are getting back real time with Brandon Aiyuk. One league, somebody traded Brandon Aiyuk for Amari Cooper straight up. Would you guys do that? Was that a good one?
Yeah.
That's someone who's really, really high on Aiyuk and not so high on Amari Cooper. I don't know. I might do that. I might do that because, in my opinion, Cooper is getting into his sunset of his career, believe it or not, and Aiyuk is just starting. So age is a big factor for me in Dynasty. So, yeah, I think I would do that trade.
Then you have another one. Brandon Aiyuk for Derrick Henry, running back, straight up.
Oof, no.
Oof.
I would take Henry. I think Henry is going to run the freaking ball into the ground. He's like the Tony Gonzalez of running backs. I think he's just going to keep going and going and going and going. I don't know, man. I think Henry is just he's like Adrian Peterson. I guess that's a better comparison, right? Because he just kept on going. The Energizer Bunny. Yeah, I don't know. I think Henry's going to be a running back in a top running back in fantasy for at least 3 more years.
What about you, Andy? You doing that
No,
deal?
I agree with Jeff on both points.
Okay. Brandon Aiyuk, Allen Robinson, straight up.
I would take Allen Robinson.
Yeah, Allen Robinson.
He's more of an alpha dog.
He's shown it. He's shown it, and he's played with some of the worst quarterbacks in the world, and he still gets it done.
I know, right? Energizer Bunny. Keep ticking, don't it?
And what is he? He's 27, going on 28, Robinson. And you just said Aiyuk is 22, right?
Aiyuk is what?
22, I think you said. And Claypool was 23, right?
Aiyuk is 24.
Oh, Aiyuk is 24.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Oh, wait, are we sure about that? All right, I'm going with you here. We'll have to get our statistician on that and see. But that says a lot right there. He is 23. He'll be 24.
24 when they play.
He just turned 23 this March. So, yeah. March 17th. He's a St. Patrick's Day kid.
Wow.
All right. Taysom Hill, first-round pick, and a fifth-round pick for DeAndre Hopkins. I'm sorry. Brandon Aiyuk, Taysom Hill, a first-round pick, and a fifth-round pick for DeAndre Hopkins, Alvin Kamara, a sixth and an eighth-round pick. That was.
I think I'd take Hopkins and Kamara.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, and you're getting a first-round pick, I guess, in addition with if you're on the Aiyuk side. But, I don't know. You've got some established people there with Kamara, who I think still has some good years left, and of course Hopkins. He's just going to keep going. So I would stay on that side, in my opinion.
I would as well.
All right, I'll do 2 more and we'll move on. Brandon Aiyuk, Ezekiel Elliott, 2 fourth-round picks for Kareem Hunt, Damian Harris, and 2 second-round picks.
Oh, I take the Aiyuk side.
Yeah.
On that, yeah.
All right,
thank you.
Yeah, you sold me a Damian Harris, I think.
All right, here's the shocker for you. Brandon Aiyuk, Devontae Parker for Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown.
I take Henry and Brown.
Of course, Henry and Brown.
Henry and Brown. That's one of those sucker trades, huh?
Yes.
You might have to veto that trade. But yeah, for trade, cut, keep, I would have to trade Mr. Brandon Aiyuk in this case. All right, let's go to keep. All right, Andy, you up first on this one. We keep, trade, cut, keep. Who you keeping?
I'm actually keeping Jerry Jeudy, of all people, me being the Steelers fan, just because he didn't have Cortland Sutton for most of the year. Well, for after the first game or the second game, I owned Sutton and he was broke. He does have a junk quarterback as well, but I think he has the best skill set. And with Cortland there, Cortland's going to be more the big play kind of guy, and he's going to get the underneath open for Jerry Jeudy. I only play in PPR leagues, so this is a guy I think they're going to feed, and even when they have problems running the ball, they're going to be able to get him in a lot of short routes. And obviously with Noah Fant too there, I think there's enough weapons around him that he's not going to be the focal point, but they can feed him the ball because he's going to be able to get open, 5-7 yards down the field and just keep on peppering him. You should get eight targets a game, which should amount to a decent amount of of fantasy points.
Okay. So we keeping Jerry Jeudy?
Keeping Jerry Jeudy.
All right. It's on me. You bring up the rear, Jeff.
Okay.
Look, my mentor taught me that talent is the principal thing. My mentor, Mr. Merton Hanks, he was teaching me from a defensive perspective how to master and focus on the skill players of the offense and how to prepare like I was a defensive back against those players on the offensive side of the ball. He didn't teach me defense. He just taught me how to spot the offensive players and spot the talent. And get those skill players, get those talented players on your roster, and don't worry about the rest. Don't worry about the QB, or don't worry about the offensive line or the running back, or don't worry about the depth chart. Load your team up with as much talent as possible, because at the end of the day, other folks are loading their talent up, loading their rosters up with folks who may be second on the depth chart, but the third guy on the depth chart might be the most talented player. Let's say the running back 1 goes down, the running back 2 comes in, which everybody is rostering, but he's not the most talented player. He gets his shot, and then the running back 3 gets his shot. They got the running backs coach and the offensive coordinator and head coach got to have a conversation. Got to have a conversation in that Monday meeting. We got to get running back 3 the ball. So it's always best to line your roster up with the most talented players. And in my opinion, by a mile, Chase Claypool is the most talented player between Aiyuk and Jerry Jeudy. It's not even close, in my opinion. Now, he's a monster threat waiting to happen. I'll go over his red zone stats in a minute. Outstanding the way he was used in the red zone. Now, of course, we know Big Ben is aging, so but he did well with Mason Rudolph, so that didn't bother me. Now, is he more than a deep ball guru? Once again, Chase Claypool lined up all over the field. He ran all types of routes. He even ran the option routes. I'm like, okay, I see you. Even though there was a little miscommunication between him and Big Ben, he is getting a lot on his plate. Now, I know about the TMZ. He has that diva mentality, and I know a lot of folks don't shy away from those type of guys. Me, myself, I love it when my player wants the ball. I love it when my player gets the first down and slams the ball down and points at you. You can't check me, and gets in your face and take this as a real competition. I love to see my players, my skill players, wear their emotions on their sleeve. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Look for Claypool to get more going forward. They played in a modified spread system last year, and which got them to an 11-0 record. But for some reason, that looked like the shakiest 11-0 I have ever seen in my life. You just knew that 11-0 wasn't real, but it's 11-0, so you had to respect it. But when you watch the tape and look at the game, Pittsburgh won 11-0, but they were. But that's my opinion on that. Now, the traits and film study on Claypool: he can track the deep ball, he can maneuver his body to win, he has soft hands, he rally body catches, he has long strides, he can reach top end speed quicker than a lot of folks think. He's a flat out playmaker. He wants to be great. He wants the ball. He's strong. He's tough to tackle. He can cut on the dime for a guy such as big as his size. And like I said earlier, he is up for the challenge. He isn't afraid of any defensive back ever born. Now let's go over his numbers. 56.9% catch rate. In the red zone, 19% target rate. Inside the 20, he has a 17% target rate, 53.85% catch rate. Inside the 10, 33.33 catch rate. Dude was a red zone monster. Best week was 44.6 fantasy points against the Eagles when he just exploded. And his worst week was 0.08 against the Titans. He finished his overall fantasy season with a whopping 218.9 fantasy points. And look, I'm buying shares of Claypool. I'm not worried about the TMZ report once again or his diva tendencies. I pounce on guys who want the ball, knocks over the Gatorade. Give me the ball. That's the guy I want on my team. So I'm keeping Claypool. All right, Jeff, it's on you.
Wow, that was a lot. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. However, I am going to keep Jerry Jeudy, like Andy. Jerry Jeudy, in my opinion, is the better all-around wide receiver, the better pedigree, the better route runner of all three of these guys. Among all three receivers, Jeudy actually had the most yards per catch. At what did he have? 16.5 yards per catch, especially when Brandon Aiyuk is more of a, after the catch monster. He actually was lowest at 12.5, believe it or not. Chase Claypool, 14.1 yards per catch. But I mean, there's so much more than yards per catch. Targets, Jeudy had the most targets out of the three, 113 versus 109 to Claypool, 97 to Aiyuk. Just the things that Andy already mentioned, you've got Cortland Sutton coming back, who is going to, draw some attention to defenses. Of course, Noah Fant there as well. The one concern that I have, of course, is quarterback with Denver. What can Denver do to improve on that sense? So in that regard, I'm a little bit concerned, but I think for the long haul, and Denver's going to get it right, and I think Jeudy is going to be a huge piece of their offense. In my opinion, he's just the better all-around wide receiver out of these three. Claypool, you said some excellent things about him, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to trade him, because I think his value is the highest. And we don't know what's going to happen with Roethlisberger this year or even the year after that. And I think that Pittsburgh's offense could take a step down, whether that's this year or if it's coming up next year. They don't know what their future is yet for quarterback. It's not Mason Rudolph, in my opinion. You could probably ask a Steelers fan that, right, Andy?
Yeah.
I don't think he's the future.
No.
I would have a completely different approach if why do I want to call him Jimmy? If Juju Smith-Schuster wouldn't have re-signed with the Steelers. That I think is a big factor in all of this. But in my opinion, also looking at the rankings, Jeudy in the last half of the year had the greatest rankings bump or spike. He moved up 20 points in PPR fantasy ranking between weeks 9 through 17 as opposed to weeks 1 through 8. So, he showed me what he's capable of. I think he had a little bit of rust in the beginning of the year. I think he was kind of forced into action with Cortland Sutton being out, and he wanted to do everything, but sometimes you have to learn. And I think he was just kind of going through some growing pains and rites of passage as a wide receiver in the league. I think he's going to be fantastic this coming year, and it could be significant in the next few years. I just see him as a receiver that I wouldn't want to give up on. I just don't want to give up on his pedigree. His opportunity is there, and you can't trade him right now because his value is not that high. And I wouldn't want to cut a guy like that. In my opinion, it's just this is what makes it really tough and really tight between these players. But in my opinion, Jeudy is the guy that I think in a couple of years down the road, we're going to be thinking, wow, look what this guy has done. He had a very good rookie year, even though it didn't necessarily meet expectations for some people. But he was strong, and you could almost argue that it wasn't that good. So what's more to come? That's what I'm looking forward to. So Jeudy is my keep in this debate.
Okay, keeping Jeudy. Andy's keeping Jeudy. I'm keeping Claypool. See, I love it. That's why I like to have 3 hosts on here, just so it won't be mundane. Everybody have the same thing. I want the shake up. I want the ruckus. I want the debate. I want the bang heads, I want us to, spew out a lot of information, to help, so the fans watching, so the folks watching can get a real good, in-depth analysis on these guys. So I'm loving it. All right, let's go to cut. So I guess you know who I'm cutting. I'm cutting the guy you guys are keeping. I'll go first, then you, Jeff, and then Andy, you bring up the rear, okay, my friend?
You got it.
All right. I'm cutting Jeudy. Now, like I said, with all these guys, if you really look at it, the quarterback situation going forward in Dynasty is really murky. I mean, you really don't know what's happening with Garoppolo. You really don't know what's happening with Big Ben.
Drew
And you
Lock.
really don't, Lock's not, I can't see Lock coming back. I just can't see them bringing Lock back another year. Because that communication between Lock and Jeudy was just horrible. I just had to cut it off. I said, you know what? I'm going to give Jeudy a mulligan. I'm not even going to grade him anymore. I'm just stopping because it was just underwhelming. Maybe it was a simple fact that he was touted so high coming out from Alabama as the supreme route runner, as this supreme guy, and I did not see it. I saw a timid guy. I saw a guy scared. I saw a guy thinking too much. I didn't see a dog. I didn't see a baller. I didn't see a guy that's, yeah, let's do it. Now I know that's not the end all be all, but I don't know, man. When I watched Jeudy, I came away more shocked as the downside, as shocked as upside. Claypool actually surprised me. I was shocked with Claypool with what he showed on film. Now he's in a traditional West Coast offense. Now they have the X receiver, which is Cortland Sutton. It's a little bit different than a traditional pro set offense where the X funnels all the attention like you see in Seattle. Everything goes through DK Metcalf, which enhances the running game. And then play tight defense and then call it a day. That's the traditional pro set offense when it's ran to the team. But a traditional West Coast is a little bit different, even though the X receiver still has a little bit more dominance. And that's Cortland Sutton's spot. And Cortland Sutton was out. He was refilled by Tim Patrick. So that gave you a little bit more Jeudy than what I really anticipate Jeudy going forward. Now, looking at his film, I just came away. I wasn't impressed. I really don't have too many good things to say. It's like when he was catching the ball, he heard footsteps. He dropped a lot of wide open passes. I mean, week 15 in his big breakout year against the Los Angeles Chargers, he had a 63-yard bomb. He dropped. That was a tug. He had a 48-yard tug. He dropped. I don't know if he's hearing footsteps. He just didn't seem like he was engaged. Something was missing. I was just shocked. And when he came across the middle on his slant route, he would jump to catch the ball. I mean, it's wide open field. Don't jump. Just catch the ball in stride and keep moving. He would jump and catch. More of a body catcher. Even body hands catching really isn't an end all be all. So I'm not going to eat his lunch for that. But here's the thing. He had a 45% completion rate with Drew Lock, which was the lowest in the NFL. Jeudy underperformed. And like I said, I know it's Drew Lock at quarterback, so I just cut it off and I said, you know what, Jeudy, I'm going to give you a mulligan, a do-over. So I'm not even going to talk about his film study. I'm just going to take it out. Now, let's go to his numbers. He had a 46% catch rate. Red zone, 9% target share. Inside the 20, 1 target. Inside the 10, 0 target. Best week was week 17 against the Raiders. Went 29 fantasy points, put up 140 and 1. His worst week was 2.9 against the Bills, week 15. He finished the season at 161.6 fantasy points, which on the surface is a good day. That's good for a rookie wide receiver, but not Jerry Jeudy. Not Jeudy, not the guy from Alabama. No, I was expecting more from Jeudy. Now, look what you have returning. You got Cortland Sutton returning. You got Albert O coming back, which is the red zone threat. You got Noah Fant. You got KJ. Don't forget KJ Hamler. All right, Cortland Sutton in the X, Jerry Jeudy in the Z, KJ Hamler in the slot, the W. Then you got Melvin Gordon in the backfield, taking little jump offs. Then you got first round pick Noah Fant, and then you got Albert O in 12 personnel. It's a lot of mouths to feed, especially with the new quarterback going on. And I just got to see a little bit more out of Jeudy. before I can give him something. But like I said, I just give Jeudy a pad. Maybe there's more to come. But what I've seen right now, I'm cutting Jeudy, and I have no problem about it. Go ahead, Jeff.
All right. Well, first of all, I gotta say, wow, that's good. Nice, good work. Nice computations and collective data that you just threw out there. So I don't necessarily disagree. I don't think that he had the greatest year, but you know what? I got to throw this out there. Remember when Davante Adams had a really bad first year, and people were like, nothing, and then he turned into something, didn't he? I think it's a mistake to throw away a guy like this who is so touted, right? We've already talked about all of his accolades and stuff at college and what he's capable of doing. I think that we have not seen the best of him. I think we all can agree with that.
Give me a cut.
Who am I cutting? You know what?
Yeah, give me a cut. We'll do the rebuttal.
I'm cutting the player who had 9 games of 2 receptions or less last year, and that's Brandon Aiyuk. And that was without George Kittle for most of that. What do you think is going to happen when Kittle comes back? Now, I know a lot of people are high on Aiyuk, and I get it. I understand it. San Francisco is a proud team. They are a good offense. Kyle Shanahan is a master coach and coordinator, and he's going to get his opportunities. But in my opinion, he's not at the same level as Jerry Jeudy, and he's got George Kittle coming back. And Deebo Samuel coming back. We can't forget about Deebo. So there's some concern there. Yes, Jeudy has Cortland Sutton coming back, right? We know that. And there's a question mark at quarterback for both teams, for every team, really. But Aiyuk, I was impressed. I was impressed with what he was able to do because I wasn't expecting it. I was expecting Jeudy to do more, and he didn't do it. But at the same time, I think that he's capable of doing more, and I would be really upset with myself if I traded him away. I can't believe I'm going to admit this, but when Davante Adams had his bad year, remember the year? You guys remember the year, right? It was bad. People were like, a couple of years, matter of fact. I traded him to a contender that year in a dynasty league. I traded him straight up for Alshon Jeffrey.
Oh. I wouldn't tell nobody that, Jeff. I wouldn't tell that. I wouldn't tell that story no more.
This is, of course, this is like, what's his name? Who's the other receiver, the white guy on the Packers that they had? Huh?
I know you're talking about.
Jordan Nelson?
Jordy Nelson, right? Nelson. So everyone was like, Jordy Nelson, he had to be, and it was James, who was the
James Jones?
James Jones, thank you. And that was I think the year that Jones had like 14 touchdowns, and Davante Adams, nothing. I traded him for Alshon freaking Jeffrey. In a dynasty league. Can you imagine if I did that again with like Jerry Jeudy? That's why I'm just like really not sold on wanting to get rid of Jeudy. I don't think that would be a very good decision in my opinion. And again, like I said, this is really tight between all 3 of these guys. I honestly I could go 5 ways till Sunday on why I should keep, trade, or cut all 3 of them. But I'm letting go Brandon Aiyuk. I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of people who love the guy. We like people who are good run after the catch guys. I don't see him as an alpha dog receiver. I don't. I see Jerry Jeudy as one. I see Allen Robinson as one. I see Juju Smith-Schuster as one. If they use him like they did prior to 2020, like 2018.
AB's gone, bro. AB's gone.
Well, all right, fair enough. But I just don't see Brandon Aiyuk as a elite difference maker wide receiver in the NFL. I don't see that. And that's the reason why I'm cutting him.
Okay. All right, and to bring up the rear, bring us home.
All right. My cut is Chase Claypool. And, me being a Steelers fan, that factors into it a bit because I really didn't see him as being that consistent. He would fade in, he'd fade out.
He did.
He had some concentration issues. there were times where he could be depended on, and sometimes we had no way of he didn't know where he was on the field. The whole TMZ stuff, the Steelers don't play. They did enough dealing with Antonio Brown. They don't want another diva. I mean, the whole thing with Juju, we go back to Juju. Juju took an $8 million contract, and I believe from the reports that I've read, is he's only going to get technically getting paid. His signing bonus was $7 million, and he gets $1 million for playing this year. So, but they're actually there's like the second and third year that signing bonus that doesn't really have a contract for that's going towards. So I don't think Juju's going anywhere as soon as they raise the cap next year. So we're talking about a number 3 receiver who's going to be playing for the Steelers that is not going to be getting the ball from Ben after this year. I mean, who's going to be throwing him the ball? I don't think anybody – I don't think the Steelers have their quarterback of the future yet, unless you want to think Haskins has a shot, and I really don't think there's much of one there. So you have him, you have Claypool. You know, I just don't think that he's ever going to be the focus of the offense. Yes, he could be a trade high if people are going to value him in your league higher than Aiyuk. I agree with Jeff. I just think that how I see it is he is worth the least. So I'm going to cut him. If I could convince somebody that Claypool was the best, I would certainly trade him first. But I just know in my mind I can't make that sale because I think that Claypool has too many things in front of him that are going to prevent him from being effective outside of a touchdown threat. And touchdown threats, you know, unless you're playing in a touchdown-only league, I don't know how, you know, you can make your bread and butter. I own Claypool in 3 leagues. I own Jeudy in 2. I don't own Aiyuk in any. And I would trade Claypool for Aiyuk in all 3 leagues. And I would not touch. I'm happy with having Jeudy, and I would not trade him for Aiyuk. And Lord knows I wouldn't trade him for Claypool.
Hey, man, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about right there, folks. You got Andy Miley giving you his trade keep cut. You got Mr. Jeff Haseley of the world famous football guys giving you his trade keep cut. You got good old Fantasy Typhoon giving you his trade keep cut. Jeff, can you do me one favor? Can you look up Dynasty Rankings on Football Guys and let me know the order of these 3 guys, please?
All right.
All right, and I'll do some filler time. Just let me know when you're ready.
Oh, go ahead. Who?
All right. Now, look, this is what I do sometimes, guys, when I'm preparing for these. I just pull back the curtain, folks who watch, and just kind of let you know what I do. I kind of just close my eyes and say, what would Claypool look like with Shanahan? What would Jerry Jeudy look like with Shanahan? What would Brandon Aiyuk look like over there in Claypool's spot? What would Aiyuk, you know what I'm saying? Kind of do the musical chairs and just kind of get a mental snapshot. What if these guys switch places? Now, would that change your position? Like I said earlier, the pure physical talent I got to give to Claypool, flat out. Now, the best head coach and offensive coordinator situation, of course, hands down, is Shanahan. The worst situation is where Jeudy is, Vic Fangio. And, you know, Mike Tomlin runs the show, and Mike Tomlin is not going worse than 8-8. So the Pittsburgh organization is going to keep pumping in and out talent at the right position to make his skill players work. So I'm not really worried about Big Ben. They'll have a good plan behind Big Ben when it's time for Big Ben. Even though I thought they would have had it in place by now, but so I gotta cut Jeudy. I'm sitting here thinking if you guys said some real valid points, and Jeff, you almost made me switch Aiyuk. You almost made me cut Aiyuk and keep Jeudy. You almost
9 games of 2 catches or less.
you almost got it. You almost got it. But I'm gonna plant my flag on my trade keep cut. I'm planting the flag. Trading Aiyuk, keeping Claypool, and cutting Jeudy. All right, Andy, did anybody say on the summation? Give us the summation, sum it up for us. Did anybody say anything that make you want to change your mind? And then give us what Andy would do. Finalize it, plant the flag.
If I'm a Scorpio, so I'm stubborn as all get out. I ain't moving from my spots whatsoever. Trading Aiyuk, keeping Jeudy, and cutting Claypool. There was a lot of great information you guys shared, and I think mine was pretty tertiary considering, but I'm not moving from where I'm sitting.
All right, Jeff, bring up the rear, man. Give us your summation, and also give us what Football Guys has these guys ranked on their Dynasty rank.
It's interesting. So I'm looking at the Dynasty rankings, and not just Claypool, not just Aiyuk, not just Jeudy, but all of their competitors on their team, like Smith-Schuster, like Cortland Sutton, like Deebo Samuel. All of those receivers are in between wide receiver 20 and wide receiver 29 in terms of Dynasty rankings.
Wow.
Now, yeah, wow. Aiyuk is the highest at wide receiver 21. Jerry Jeudy 22. Claypool 26. And that's kind of where they stand right now. The lowest is Deebo Samuel at 29. The highest is Smith-Schuster, believe it or not, at wide receiver 20. So that's where all those guys range between wide receiver 20 and wide receiver 29 in terms of Dynasty ranking. Do I change my opinion, my tune, as a result of listening to you guys? Almost. All right. I really like what you had to say about Jerry Jeudy. The fact that their offense is their head coach is a defensive guy, right? That hurts. Their offense is struggling, right? They're stuttering a little bit with Drew Lock. We don't know what's going to happen. Right now, it looks kind of bleak. But at the same time, I'm looking down the future here. I'm looking down the road at this guy and what he could potentially be. I just don't want to let him go. And I can't trade him. His value is not good enough to trade, in my opinion, yet, Jeudy. So I don't want to cut him. So I have to keep him. That's kind of how I look at it. And remember, I said all 3 of these guys are ultra close. I could, like I said, make an argument for each one. I like what you had to say, Typhoon, about Claypool and his, my ball mentality. His, he has that alpha dog type of personality. He does. Unfortunately, he also has 2 very good receivers on his team, and he's got a quarterback that we don't know how he's going to do this year or down the road. Just like Denver, in a sense, right? But I'm not trading Jeudy, so I have to either keep him or cut him, and I don't want to cut Jeudy. So that's what it all boils down to. In my opinion, trading Claypool would be the best value. And Brandon Aiyuk, I said, 9 games of 2 catches or less last year. That to me, that's can I start him this week? And he's got George Kittle returning. It's too much of an unknown for me in that regard, and that's what kind of swayed me to want to keep Jeudy, of course, and kind of go with my gut feeling. And losing out on potentially Jeudy, like I lost out on Devontae Adams, is still hurting. I just don't want that.
I'll edit that part out. I'll edit that trade part with
don't make mistakes. I made an absolute wonderful trade that involved Antonio Gates one year. We're not going to talk about that. I absolutely won that hands down. But anyway, that was not a very good trade with Adams. But could you blame me? The guy wasn't that good that year. Anyway, I am not changing. I'm not changing. I really, really, really appreciate the level of confidence that you guys have, the amount of work that you guys did, the almost convincing me to switch that you guys did. But I'm sticking with my 3, trading Chase Claypool, keeping Jerry Jeudy, and cutting Mr. Brandon Aiyuk. 9 games of 2 catches or less last year.
Okay. Wow. I love the way this worked out. Folks, we did not compare notes before we started. I had no idea what Andy was doing or what he was thinking. I had no idea what Jeff was doing or what he was thinking. And we all had different trade keep cut. Wow, that's outstanding. I really applaud that. So, folks, you really got to hear the pros and the cons of all 3 of these players. And of course, you're not going to be in a position to where you really have to trade keep cut these guys. If you do, you're in a good position. That's a good place to be. If you really have to make this real life decision in one of your fantasy leagues, you're doing something right. So this is just an exercise just to kind of, push these guys up against each other. Justin Jefferson was the second guy. He was just too good. So we can't even he can't even be brought into this conversation.
Can we talk about Justin Jefferson just for like 30 seconds?
Go ahead, man. Do you think?
You guys think he's going to do better or worse than last year?
Who, Jefferson?
Yeah.
He raised the bar pretty high.
He did.
That's a high bar. I tell you after the rookie draft.
That's not fair. You got to answer now.
Oh, answer now? Yeah. Judy's for real.
Jefferson.
Jefferson's for real. Excuse me.
So you think he exceeds his totals from this past year?
I don't know if he can exceed that. That was just outstanding. There was a lot of breakdowns out there too, but I think teams are going to see him coming this year.
Oh yeah, yep.
See, I do think the teams are going to see him coming, but he only had 7 touchdowns? I think he's going to improve on his touchdowns, and he's probably going to slide a little bit on his catches and his yards. And I'll probably even it out pretty close.
Yeah, I full steam ahead with Jefferson, man. That dude can play. That dude can play. Maybe we'll do something on the rookies. Since we got rookie drafts coming up, maybe we'll do something on the rookies coming up.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sounds good.
All right, final thoughts. Jeff, final thoughts. Andy, final thoughts. We're wrapping it up. We're going home.
If Jamar Chase was better than Justin Jefferson at LSU, how good is Chase going to be? I guess it depends on landing spot, right? But that, in my opinion, is just a thought that you kind of think about and wonder. Final thoughts.
His measurements is insane.
Yeah. I mean, if Jamar Chase goes to the Dolphins, right? Are we super high on him?
I gotta take it.
You're taking.
I gotta be high on him.
I mean, we'll see. We will see what. And again, it's what Tua does too. And
they'll fix the quarterback situation.
Well, if Tua's not the answer, they have the capital to fix it. You're right.
It's outside circumstance. It's not the player. When the player is bad, then I got to get rid of him. But if it's a good player in a bad situation, it's just the situation. The situation to get fixed. I mean, what's your guy over there in New England? What's that rookie? What's that rookie that never panned out? I forgot his name now. I can't even remember him anymore.
N'Keal Harry?
Yeah, that's N'Keal Harry's the problem, not New England. You see what I'm saying?
I would agree with that. Yeah.
You got to get rid of Harry. It's not the quarterback. It's Harry. But
well, they can't draft wide receivers to save their lives either, though, in New England.
I think I draft wide receivers better than Bill Belichick, man.
Don't know why.
Imagine if they did. Jeez.
Go ahead, Andy. Give us final thoughts, man. Let's go home.
Final thoughts. Thank you for having me on because I am so rusty at this. It's unbelievable.
Man,
But I really appreciate talking football because with me working with autistic teenagers and kids all day, I really don't get to talk much football. So I really enjoyed this. I want to thank you both.
Okay, maybe we need to sharpen your fantasy knife, man, and dust you off and bring you back out.
Well, we could probably do that.
Okay. We'd love to have you back. We'd love to have you back, man. We try to do this every Wednesday. All right.
Well, I'll commit to next Wednesday. We'll see after that.
All right. We'll keep the schedules open. We'll keep the schedules open. All right, Jeff. Once again, Andy, thank you for your time, man. I appreciate it. Jeff, final thoughts, man. Let's wrap it up. Go home, man.
Yeah, just like Andy said, thanks for having me on as always. It's fun to talk football with you guys. Andy, it's great to hang with you again.
Great to hang with you too, Jeff.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the next time. I think we all had some really good conversation going and some stats and some topic provoking ideas and thoughts. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, look forward to it. Hopefully this helped other people, and in their process of their dynasty leagues. And just listening, hopefully, was a pleasant experience. So there's a lot of podcasts out there, and I'm thankful that people who are listening to this gave us an opportunity to kind of come into their earbuds and just kind of talk about football, and definitely appreciate you letting me do that here at Typhoon.
No doubt, man. No doubt. Folks, Typhoon wrapping it up. Thank you for watching. We deeply appreciate everybody. I think this is the last night on Periscope. So I don't know if the content will still be up and Periscope is just shut down. I have no idea what's around the corner. I don't know how Twitter is going to interact and replace it. I don't know what's happening here, but you can find us on YouTube, Fantasy Typhoon Studios. Make sure you go there and subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button and make sure you hit that little bell for notifications. And every time we go live, boom, you get first choice of when we're getting ready to go live. Once again, trade, keep, cut, Brandon Aiyuk, Chase Claypool, Jerry Jeudy, my good friend Andy MILEY, and Jeff HASELEY of the world famous football guy. And we go.